Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American supernatural horror film from 2022, titled The Cellar. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie starts with a family of four, the Woods family, moving into an old Irish manor called the Zao's house. The parents, Brian and Kira, are excited about their new home, and even their son, Stephen, seems happy. However, their teenage daughter, Ellie, is upset from the start and wishes she could go back to be with her friends. While exploring the house, the family discovers a creepy cellar and decides to check it out. After they all leave the cellar, Ellie gets trapped inside before she can leave. Her parents try to open the door but it won't budge. On the other hand, Ellie starts hearing growling sounds coming closer, which frightens her. Her parents notice a key hanging nearby and use it to unlock the cellar door and free her just in time. Later, Kira goes to Ellie's room to let her know that she and Brian need to go to the office for work that night, leaving Ellie in charge of watching Stephen, but she isn't happy about this. That night, while Brian and Kira are gone, Ellie, who is on the phone with an old friend, fails to notice a door slowly opening by itself, and suddenly, she is startled by Stephen, who is wearing an animal skull mask. Stephen takes Kira to a hidden room in the house where he finds the animal mask. The siblings also find other antique items, like abacus and a phonograph. Ellie plays the phonograph, and it begins with a man reciting mathematical formulas before slowly counting up. She turns it off before it reached the number 7 and tells Stephen to go to bed. Later, while Ellie is watching TV, an eerie wind seems to blow from the cellar, and one by one, the lamps begin to flicker and go out. Suddenly, the TV goes off, followed by the living room lamp, plunging Ellie into complete darkness, and scared, she calls her mom. Kira tells her to check the circuit breaker in the cellar, despite Ellie's fear of the dark, and instructs Ellie to count her way down the 10 steps to the cellar to keep her calm. Over the phone, Kira notices that when Ellie gets to 10, she continues to count in a dreamlike state. Kira and Brian rush home, only to find that Ellie has disappeared, and they quickly inform the police, so a search begins in the nearby woods, but there's no sign of her. Detective Brophy suggests that Ellie may have run away, as she has done so in the past, but Kira knows something is wrong. The following day, search for Ellie continues, but when it yields no result, Kira drives to the forest and posts missing flyer of Ellie. She goes to pick up Stephen from school, who asks if Ellie has returned, and Kira tells him no, leaving Stephen visibly sad over his sister's disappearance. Kira takes Stephen to the police station, where Detective Brophy reveals despite checking CCTV footage in various places and talking to Ellie's friends, there is still no trace of her. He also revealed that they checked Ellie's social media account and discovered she had been bullied a lot. Kira tells Brophy that Ellie didn't run away and suspects that something happened to her in the cellar, based on how Ellie was speaking in their last conversation. Back at home, Kira notices a strange writing etched into the wall of the house, and after researching about it, she finds that the writing relates to the word dissolve and Colgate. She then calls Stephen, who is playing near the cellar with his ball, and asks him about Ellie's behavior before her disappearance. Stephen tells her that Ellie was acting normal and shows her the phonograph that they played that night. Kira checks Ellie's social media account and discovers a pentagram symbol drawn on Ellie's leg, something she had kept hidden. Determined to uncover the truth, Kira goes into the cellar, where she finds a mathematical equation etched into the stone floor. Using a black light, she uncovers disturbing chlorophyll-based paintings of tormented faces on the cellar walls. After having the police examine the cellar, Detective Brophy determines that the markings date back to the 1950s and asks about the house's previous owner. Brian explains that they bought it cheaply at an auction from an elderly woman, and Brophy reassures them that his team hasn't found anything concerning yet. That night, while Brian and Kira are asleep, their bedroom door creaks open, but it is just Stephen who tells Kira he wet his bed. After helping and putting him back to bed, Kira hears a whispering voice from the upstairs bathroom in form of a girl slowly counting up. As the counting continues, Kira goes to the cellar where she accidentally drops Stephen's ball down the stairs, which keeps falling. When she turns on the light to retrieve it, Kira discovered the ball is nowhere to be found. The next day, Kira asks Brian about the symbols she noticed above all the doors in the house and also tells him about Ellie bullying on social media. Later, Kira contacts Rob, the auctioneer who sold them the house, to ask for information about the previous owner. Rob explains that the house was built by John Featherston, a prominent academic, and that he only dealt with the previous owner's solicitor. Kira takes pictures of the symbols and goes to her place of work and asks her coworker Erica to help her figure out what they mean. During a meeting, Kira feels distracted and leaves early, and as she is about to exit the building, Erica informs her that the symbols she found are Hebrew glyphs that spell out Leviathan, a sea creature from Jewish mythology. She drives to pick up Steven from school and discovers that he got into a fight with a classmate who said Ellie is dead. Kira goes home and begins researching on Leviathan for more information. She then decides to play the phonograph, which triggers strange occurrences in the house. The abacus in Steven's room starts moving on its own, and a secret room opens by itself. As Kira plays the phonograph, Steven, who had been playing a game, begins to count along with the phonograph and walks toward the secret room in a trance. Kira overhears Steven counting, just like Ellie did before she disappeared, and managed to snap him out of the trance, but Steven doesn't remember anything that happened. Noticing symbols etched in a portrait of John Featherston, Kira decides to investigate more about him and the house. As she researches, the cellar door opens, and a strong wind blows through the house, causing the lights to go out. Suddenly, Kira hears Steven calling for help from the cellar, but when she tries to open the door, the key is missing. Looking through the keyhole, Kira sees a monstrous eye staring back at her. However, Steven appears and asks her from behind who she is talking to, as he has been asleep the whole time. The cellar door opens slightly, with the lights coming back on, and Kira managed to find the missing key on the floor. She goes into the cellar to investigate, but the door slams shut behind her. Kira hears a growling sound coming from the stairs and drops her phone while trying to locate the source. Steven managed to get the cellar key but struggles to open the door. Kira grows increasingly frightened until Brian arrives in time and manages to open the door. Kira tells Brian that something sinister is in the cellar, explaining that she dropped her phone down the stairs and it vanished. She also reveals that the Featherston family, who previously owned the house, all mysteriously disappeared except for their daughter. However, Brian remains skeptical, thinking Kira is overreacting, and he heads down to the cellar himself to search for her phone. Instead of finding it, he discovers strange animal hair, but no trace of the phone. The next day, Kira writes down the equation from the phonograph and takes it to the National College of Mathematics. There, she meets with Dr. Remy Fournette, who informs her that John Featherston once worked at the college alongside Erwin Schrödinger, collaborating on a unity theory. However, Featherston vanished after his son became ill. Upon examining the equation, Dr. Fournette explains that it appears to represent a dimension, and requests more time to study it further. Kira gets home with her new phone and Dr. Fournette calls her asking if she's okay, as he called her old phone several times and heard someone counting on the other end. Dr. Fournette goes on to mention that one of his colleagues identified the equation as originating from the 12th century, created by alchemists. It was like an unfinished incantation. Dr. Fournette adds that he came across a case in Belgium involving a house with similar markings, and the entire household mysteriously disappeared. Kira shows Brian how the Hebrew letters spell Leviathan, explaining that it refers to the serpent of the abyss. She also tells him how John Featherston named the house after the Greek word for chaos, symbolizing the void before time, but Brian becomes frustrated with Kira's theories, dismissing them as irrational. In an attempt to convince him, Kira leads Brian into the cellar to show him the symbols, and while they're in the cellar, Steven starts walking toward the mysterious secret room. Kira tries to explain the equation she found, which relates to another dimension, but Brian insists she is being delusional and refuses to help. In a fit of frustration, Brian grabs a sledgehammer and tries to destroy the equation etched into the floor, but his efforts fail. Suddenly, a strange echo reverberates through the cellar, and the phonograph upstairs starts playing on its own. At the same time, Steven sees a disturbing vision of Ellie, her face carved with symbols, counting along with the phonograph. Hearing Steven scream, Kira and Brian rush upstairs. They find Steven in a panic, and as they comfort him, Brian discovers Ellie's missing phone lying in the secret room. The next day, Kira tracks down John Featherston's only surviving daughter, Rose, at St. Anthony's private nursing home. Rose reveals that Leviathan is one of the 7 princes of hell, known by many names throughout history, and she explains that her father summoned this ancient darkness when science failed to save her sick brother, Jack. Rose warns Kira that it isn't just the cellar that acts as a portal to another world, but rather the entire house is linked to this dark force. When Kira returns home, Brian shares his own research. He revealed that the shapes and symbols above the doors form a pentagon, which when combined with the name Leviathan, points to Baphomet, a demon worshipped by the Knights Templar. This suggests that the entire house was designed around the demon, and Kira realized that reciting the equation might be what opens the portal. As they discuss their findings, Steven follows his drone into the cellar, and believing the phonograph is key to opening the portal, Kira begins to play it once again. Suddenly, Steven becomes entranced and starts counting as he descends the stairs. However, he managed to snap out of the trance, and just then, Baphomet appears and takes Steven away. In an instant, the lights flicker and go out, plunging the house into darkness. Kira and Brian rush to the cellar to search for Steven, but they only find his drone, and the circuit breaker is no longer working. As they continue their frantic search, they hear a ball bouncing down the stairs accompanied by Steven eerie counting echoing from above. They follow the sounds and find the entranced Steven in the secret room, and they quickly carry him back to the living room. Once there, a dazed Steven complains of feeling thirsty and Brian rushed to the kitchen to fetch him some water, leaving Kira alone with their son. While adjusting Steven's shirt, Kira discovers the symbol of Baphomet etched on his chest, and just then, Steven chillingly declares that he rode the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Suddenly, he begins to count backwards, sending Kira into a panic. She rushes out of the room to find Brian, and to her shock, she finds him also counting backward. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Kira closed the cellar door, and just as Brian reached 0 in his countdown, the cellar door burst open and Baphomet began to emerge from the cellar. Kira hides just in time, but her relief is short-lived when she comes face to face with the creature. Ultimately, she runs to the cellar and discovered that the stairs are now very long, leading to a door at the end, with the creature chasing her. Kira hides behind the door, and after Baphomet has gone, she continues walking down the passageway and finds what seems to be an endless crowd of people, all counting different numbers as they shuffle forward in a lifeless dimension. After losing hope on finding Ellie, Kira managed to spot her daughter through the pentagram symbol she had on her leg, and brings her back. After escaping Baphomet, Kira yells at the creature that it cannot take her family, before she and Ellie escape the cellar, slamming the door behind her. The family reunites, and when they try to exit the house, Kira sees they are still at the bottom of the staircase in the netherworld. Suddenly, Ellie, Steven and Brian become entranced and begin to count up, turning away and walking into the cellar, and as the film concludes, Kira joins in the counting. Okay guys, that's all the recap about the cellar from 2022. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.